All right. Welcome, everyone, to our City Council meeting for Monday, October 28th. If we could have a roll call, Madam Clerk, to establish a quorum.
Terry McClung is absent with notice. Harry Meyer.
Here.
David Avanzino.
Here.
Autumn Slane.
Here.
Steve Holofield.
Here.
Susan Gruning.
Here.
And stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I get a motion to approve the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, Steve made the motion and Mr. Avanzino seconded. I'd like to add at the end of the meeting under new business, setting November and December meeting dates on there for the city council. Anybody else have anything?
What do you want to add?
Setting November and December meeting dates. Yeah, sometimes we don't meet but once in November and once in December, so. All right. If there's nothing else, all in favor of the agenda as amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Approval for the minutes for October 14th.
I move we approve the minutes for October 14, 2024 as presented.
Second.
All right, Mr. Holyfield made the motion. Mr. Avanzino seconded. Any additions, corrections? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Under Planning Commission, I'd like to, in your packet, you have a nomination for David Bicali on there that we'll bring up the next meeting. We still have a vacancy on planning, and we also have a vacancy on parks and HDC. And I think also in your packet, there's a third quarter report for the CAPC on there. And I think we have a letter from the Hospital Commission that's going to be read. Yeah.
To Mayor Butchberry and members of the City Council and public, Commission desires to notify the city that we have received a draft of an article about the hospital that is to appear in Eureka Springs Independent soon. The article is not completely accurate. However, we cannot comment on the article as we are conducting an investigation relating to potential personnel matters. We will be completing our investigation soon, at which time the Commission will hold a special meeting for the purpose of making a decision on any actions to be taken. Kent Turner, Chair, Eureka Springs Hospital Commission.
All right. Okay, that brings us up to our public comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Ferguson Stewart, 7 Harvey Road. I was just coming here asking you not to do something. Today I want to ask you to do something.
Fergie, just skip a minute.
There. How's that? Better?
Much better.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you to do something. Today, we're a historic district. Without our historic district, we have no town. We're 99.9% tourism. Act 605 will destroy us financially. I'm asking you, of all the amendments ever written by the state of Arkansas, every municipal amendment and act has had a historic exemption. Act 605 has no historic exemption. We need, as a council, I'm going to ask you to create a resolution stating that you request an exemption for the historic district for Act 605. I'm not saying this has nothing to do with water quality, it has all to do with the requirements. We've been managing a water district for well over 100 years. We know how to manage our water system, okay? We don't need the state to come in and throw these rules at us, plus McCullen Engineering asking $150 million in a reserve fund that's going to sit idle. We don't have $150 million. It would destroy us financially. We need to have an historic exemption. Every other act that the state of Arkansas has ever passed has had an historic exemption. except for Act 605. So I'm going to ask you to do something, and that is create a resolution asking for a historic exemption of 605 for the city of Eureka Springs or any other historic district. Thank you.
All right, and there's no other public comments? All right, so if there's hearing none, then we'll jump right into our unfinished business. Item number 1 is the sewer update. Get a motion to discuss.
Move we discuss.
Second.
All right, Mr. Hofield made his motion, Mr. Myers seconded, and here comes our expert.
Hello, Mayor and Council. So for as far as sewer updates, what I have for you this time is we replaced some more of the clay sewer main up on by Spring Garden. We replaced a manhole over at 134 East Van Buren. And then as far as the wastewater treatment plant, so the pressure reducing valves have been installed in that sludge storage basin. We filled it up with tap water out of the hydrant out there to make sure that it held up over the weekend and that we didn't lose any elevation, so we know we've got that leak taken care of. Last week we installed new underground conduit for our chemical feed to the influent line. And they have the contractor, J.L. Bryson, has began trenching for a new decant line, which is a clear water on top of that sludge basin, and they're also trenching in the sludge draw pipe line for the sludge at the bottom of the basin. I'll stand for any questions.
What kind of options do you have for that sludge tank?
As far as what the aeration of it or the
Yeah, either
Yeah.
the floating or the,
So we're looking at doing the floating aeration valve. We don't have prices for that to present right now. I will at the next council meeting. And once we get all that lined out, we're trying to do some math to make sure everything will work with the size of our basins and the way everything's set up out there, and do the little engineering behind it to make sure that what we do is going to work 100%. So next council meeting, I should have you some more information on that. The nice thing about having the sludge basin sealed, though, and doing a floating aeration setup, which is more or less augers that'll come down from the top to mix it up, is I can put that basin back online. So as soon as our pipes are installed, I can put the basin back online, which is desperately needed right now because we have rain coming, and with I&I, I don't know that we're going to have the storage in our SBRs, so we're going to try to get that basin back online just as soon as possible so we can try to deal with that.
Thank you for your dedication to this. Oh my gosh.
It's been
What a
busy,
project.
What, month now? Yeah. So yeah, we're trying to make changes and for the betterment of the staff, because I was working staff a lot of hours out there. I was out there working myself a lot of hours and just trying to make sure everything's running and we're not discharging illicitly. And but I think we're starting to see the end of the storm here. So I told the mayor, I was like, you better remember this evaluation time. But I'm not setting a new bar for myself work-wise, okay?
But you are.
well, the cost of what we're putting into that sludge tank has to do with what equipment we choose and whose equipment we buy, right?
That's right. Yeah,
And
that's,
it's going to, and delivery time too.
yeah, so we're looking at delivery. So there's a lot of variables. You know, we want to, first off, we got to make sure it's going to work. And what we do is going to work. I mean, that's number one importance. Lead time, how long is it going to take us to get it? We could do the floating aeration while that basin is online and being used. You know, we could drop that level, that basin enough to where they could drop their ladders in there and mount what they need to mount for that. I do have an electrician on staff right now, so he's been doing a lot of the wiring, the conduit running, and getting everything prepared for that kind of stuff. And then, you know, cost is another part. You know, we have to be fiscally responsible with the taxpayers' money. So, you know, cost is a huge part, you know, so I'm trying to get the biggest bang for the buck, if you will. So we're just researching all different options to see what we can do that's going to be the best for now and for the long-term operation.
Any other questions?
I'd just like to say that we really don't want to pollute the people downstream, so we need to stick with this and not cheapen it.
I think that's the whole point of this process.
Pardon?
That's the whole point of this process. So,
Well, I hope so.
anybody else?
I very hope so.
All right, Simon, you want to jump into the water leak remediation then?
Yeah, absolutely. So since this last council meeting, we repaired the leak at 155 North Main, repaired the leak over there at Huntsville and Van Buren at that intersection. 6 Douglas, we replaced a section of bad line over by Lake Lucerne by the cabins, fixed a leak at 137 Mill Hollow Road, and fixed a leak at 2 Vines. So stand for any questions you guys might have. Yes, ma'am.
I know we keep repairing and finding and repairing and finding. Is there a map that you're following, or are we just repairing as it comes?
So that's a great question. Thank you for asking. So what we're doing is we're trying to build a database right now where our most problematic areas are, because with the SAC 605, we'll have the funds to replace some of these bad sections of water line. And so if I could identify these areas that are more problematic now, when we end up having the funding to replace, then I can put it on a priority list to have it replaced. So we are keeping track of that, yes.
Ms. Gurney?
So I know we're putting a lot of time and energy into the sewer updates, but we also have the water leaks. And kind of like what Autumn said, we repair, we find, we repair. We're coming on winter again, and last winter was a little hellacious for us with a lot of water leaks. When do we get ahead? Like, we're trying to get ahead with the sewer plant. We're putting a lot of money in, and hopefully we're going to keep making money, so we're constantly keeping our sewer plant up and not waiting for the 30-year mark then to be back in the same position. But what are we doing for the sewer lines as well?
So we don't really have a capital improvement project list yet for the water and sewer systems. That is something that McClellan is gathering up for us. So all this data on these water leaks, where we have these water leaks or these sewer issues, clay lines, that we know where there's clay lines and stuff like that, we'll be pushing that into the 5-year plan and trying to get some of that those issues remediated. Part of the winter problem is the freeze thaw and the karst makeup of our ground here, and so everything's kind of moving all the time, and that's what's causing a lot of our water leaks in this area. And we just try to keep up with them the best that we can. Ductile iron has been pretty good to the city as far as longevity. I'm not a big proponent of ductile iron, but it's held up all right. I really like the C900 pipe that they use now, the plastic pipe. But I think in the future, with proper bedding and installation of these pipes, and the new technology that we have, that will have piping in the ground that will outlast what we have right now in the future. So that's about all I could give you on that answer.
And I know it is challenging with the ground that we have here. A lot of, water pipes are above ground, and
Yeah.
Mr. Meyer?
Yeah, one of the problems with our sewer plant is the sewer lines. 6 rats came through the line the other day. I don't know how they got into our sewer pipes, but
What did?
There's a big black rats. So there's a hole someplace where they're getting in.
Yeah, we're not exactly sure where that's at. With these rate adjustments, one of our top priorities is going to be trying to figure out where this INI, the INI in my world is a little bit different than INI, and the infrastructure improvements, what you guys call it, but in the wastewater world is called inflow and infiltration. So it's when groundwater gets into your sewer system. But one of the first things we're probably going to be doing is hiring a company to come in and smoke test and inspect the entire sewer system for leaks. That way we can start addressing those and coming up with solutions, because right now we don't have the data. So I have to build that data to be able to bring options to you guys in the future on how we're going to attack it.
it's in the forefront.
Yeah.
Mr. Myers?
There was smoke testing in the past, but evidently they didn't follow up on it or something.
Smoke testing in the past, kind of, it was, from what I saw, was concentrated in some of the downtown area. It didn't branch out to the city as a whole. So, maybe it's something where we don't do a smoke test in the entire city at one time, but we do a quarter of the city or a basin of the city at a time and try to come up with a solution. So, you know, one of the things that we're working on, we talked about it today, was mapping of our water and wastewater lines and how we do that, you know, because a lot of stuff's so old, they didn't have tracer wire or GPS locations or anything like that. And we're trying to gather that data for our GIS mapping. But it's not just that data where that stuff is, but what's it made out of? When was it installed? You know, so there's a lot of data that we're trying to pull in all at once, and it's not something I can do overnight because I'm only one person. But I'm trying the best I can to gather all this data so that tomorrow we have this information and we can act on it and do something.
I think the last time we had the smoke testing was probably at least 20 years ago, maybe 25, but around 20.
Seemed like it was, late 90s, early 2000s, I think. I can't remember the year on it, but it was quite a while back.
Because I can remember seeing a lot of the dye coming out of a lot of people's yards. And, you know, and in that period of time, because of our topography and our karst settlement, you know, a lot of those lines can settle, even that they were good at that time. They could be bad now. So I think you and I talked about having that smoke test done. You had an estimate on that at one time, didn't you?
I did. So when we did the leak test, when we hired McKim & Creed to come in and do that leak test, was that last year, I think? I also got an estimate for them to do the sewer tests, and it was substantially more. Don't quote me on this number, but I think it was about $180,000 for them to come in and do the sewer system, and we paid them $30,000 to come in and do the water. You know, so a huge price difference on that. But yeah.
So, Ms. Gurney?
So having this done, would you be able to find hotspots of where we have potential issues like come the winter months or be prepared or?
Yes and no. I mean, sometimes the breaks are kind of hard to predict. I mean, where they're going to happen. You know, I think maybe you'll identify some issues like in the sewer system, like where the clay lines are that we know we need to replace that are kind of problematic. But as far as the water system, the smoke testing of our sewer system won't do anything for that at all. You know, I think our best bet on the water system is just keep collecting data where the breaks are happening and why they're breaking, and then how we can fix it to make it better.
Mr. Myers?
Well, you've been replacing line instead of putting patches, so that has helped a lot.
Some, yeah. If we know it's a problematic area, like back behind O'Reilly's, they have a water leak that's consistent, and they've patched the line. I don't know, 50 times or something. I don't know if it is that much, but we ended up just cutting that out and replacing that section of line, so we don't have to deal with it again, you know, and we're trying to do that as much as possible.
All right, any other questions? All right, well, you might as well stay up here, get a motion to talk about the financing verification of the sewer plant.
I move we talk about the financing and verification sewer plant.
Second.
Okay, was that, Mr. Gurney, did you second that?
I did.
Mr. I know we don't have a lot of information on there yet, so.
Right, so we'll have more information by the next council meeting. So Zane and McClellan right now are trying to gather up as much information because we want to make sure that whatever choice we make is going to work and is going to be financially responsible, you know, fiscally responsible of a purchase. So we've been working with a consulting engineer to review what we're coming up with solution-wise and stuff like that. So we're just trying to still kind of gather up all that information to have for you guys at the next council meeting.
Great.
Mr. Meyer?
If we don't have something in the finances for fixing the sewer leaks, if we have a busy weekend and a rainstorm, it's going to overflow our plant.
I mean, that's always a possibility. So our SBRs they have a fail-safe mode in it. And I don't know if you guys remember last year, we had an SBR that overflowed. And the reason that overflowed was because the emergency shutdown flowed on it. The wiring was under the water and it corroded, and it caused it to fail, and it kept flowing wastewater into that SBR until it overflowed. All that is working, and then last year we had Mission, or this year, everything, my time periods are kind of blending in together with me, but we had upgraded all our lift stations with Mission Control. So Mission is the name brand, not Mission Control like astronaut. And what it does is it calls us out now. So if we have a high alarm and it calls us out, but I also had that installed on the SBRs. So not only do we have the fail-safe of the SCADA program, we also have the Mission call out. So if it gets a high level, it calls our personnel out to be able to address that hopefully in time before it overflows. So what ends up happening is once SBRs get to a certain level, the SCADA system will tell that system to shut down, and it will stop filling that SBR and switch over to the next one. And then it'll go through the process of aeration, settling, and automatically take over that process. The problem right now the only reason we would, I don't know how to really word it the best I can, is have an overflow is because we don't have adequate sludge storage right now. We're using that basin that's, just about a third of the size of our normal basin right now. So what we're going to try to do is get that basin back online to where we go and start using it, because I need to drop the sludge levels in our SBRs because our sludge is really high and it doesn't give us a lot of room for clear water on the top. So we're going to drop those sludges levels down as much as possible and try and probably eliminate any chance of the overflow happening. So.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much, Simon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next item of business is an ordinance to amend the Parks membership. Get a motion to discuss.
Move we discuss.
Okay. Have a second?
Second.
This is an ordinance to amend the Parks membership. We read it. Is this our second reading?
Yes.
Okay. Last time we read it and we added an item in there to make sure that they're required to live inside the Western District and the parks, and the chair should be living inside the corporate city limits. So, need a motion to...
I move that we suspend the rules and read ordinance 2363 by title only for its second reading.
Second.
All right. Mr. Meyer made the motion to read ordinance 2363 by title only, and Mr. Holyfield seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Whoops.
I did attend the last Parks Commission meeting. I asked them if this is something they'd be okay with, and they said, yeah. So they're cool with this.
Okay. Voice vote?
Autumn Slane,
No.
Steve Holofield,
Yes.
David Avanzino,
Yes.
Susan Gruning,
Yes.
Harry Meyer.
Yes.
There's a 4-1.
Yes.
You vote no? Okay.
No.
All right, get a motion to approve the ordinance on second reading.
Motion to approve ordinance 2363 on its second reading.
Second.
All right, Mr. Avanzino made the motion to approve 2363 on second reading, and Mr. Holyfield second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, voice vote.
Susan Gruning,
Yes.
David Avanzino,
Yes.
Harry Meyer,
Yes.
Autumn Slane,
No.
Steve Holofield.
Yes.
All right, 4-1, passed. Do I wait until the next time to read the final reading? All right, then that brings us up to our next reading. Under unfinished business, and ordinance increasing rates for water and wastewater usage. I'm going to ask our finance director, Michael, are you here somewhere? Get a motion to discuss.
Move we discuss.
Second.
Second.
All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to suspend this or put this on hold until we hear from Zane and Simon about the water rate study.
All right, Michael, is that a motion to defer?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
What's the reason to table this?
we still have a rate study going on, and it hadn't been finished yet. We need to,
Well, that rate study's been going on for years, right?
no, this is a particular rate study for this Act 605, I believe.
Which should be finished by the end of the year. Michael, you want to address this and where we are?
So we're in the middle of the rate study now. We're almost finished with it. Dan is thinking that he's going to have all the information compiled and done by November, and that he'll have a report to us by December. In his preliminary numbers, what he's doing is he's looking at what the cost it is going to be to replace some of the equipment we have, what it's going to cost to pay for some of the equipment that we have, and where we need to be at with our normal costs and expenses. Kind of what 605 does is 605 is stating that you as a water department need to be self-sufficient, and that you need to pay your normal expenses. You need to be able to pay your normal expenses to run your water department and not have to be the city loaning the water department money. Then when you do these big projects like what we're looking at doing, you want to show that the city can afford that kind of debt or that kind of bond or whatever you're going to do to finance it with. And so in his preliminary numbers, he's looking at 5 years of raising the rates over a course of 5 years. And when I talked to him about it, he said, I told him that we were looking at doing 25%. He said within the first year that he would say 20 to 25% will be a normal range for us to raise the rates in this first year. And that would be our raise for 25. And that getting towards the end of 26 would probably be our next, at the end of 25 going into 26 would be the next time we'd have to look at raising rates to keep up with this study. But once we receive our study and get where we need to go, we'll have, depending on how much the rates are going to go up overall, we'll have some time to implement that rate structure going forward. A city of our size, we should have about a year to 2 years to be able to get to where this rate study says we need to be.
Mr. Myers?
Simon was going to get with you on the rates for commercial properties and residential rates, and I know he's been up to his ears in the sewer plant. So have you given that any thought? Have you done any research on that?
We've done a lot of different type of research on what some different programs are that we could look at doing. One of the things that Dan is looking at in the rate study is adjusting the rates to where your base rate is based upon the size of your meter. And so thinking that the larger meters deliver, they're more expensive and more costly, they deliver more. So that's kind of some of the stuff we're looking at. Another thing we're looking at is right now our minimum water usage is 2,000 gallons for our base rate. A lot of cities go down to 1,000. They start at 1,000 for their base rate. So those are all kinds of ideas that are going to be coming out of this rate study. What they're going to do is it will ultimately be a management decision of what the city council and the city wants to do. What they're doing with this rate study is they're saying, okay, here's where you kind of need to get to, and then here's different avenues to be able to do that. Do you want to go by meter size? Do you want to lower the amount of your minimum usage? Do you want to raise your rates overall? The one thing that I did ask Dan was, I said, if we go through, because my initial response was that we needed to wait until the rate study, but I did ask Dan, I said, if we go ahead and raise these rates, it's not something we're going to have to back down from. We're not raising them up to a point to where we'd have to come back in 25 and say, we raised the rates too much for these, we kind of jumped the gun and we raised the rates too much. He said no, that we're looking at 5 years, we're looking at 20-25% a year raising the rates. So it's going to be a continuous thing. The beauty of water systems is you can look at 100 different water systems and there's 100 different ways that they've got to where they're going. We talked about some leak adjustments. We had a meeting today about leak adjustments and how to do those. I called 6 of the local cities around here and all 6 of them figure their leak adjustments a different way. So it's just whatever the council or, they're going to advise us on what they feel like we should do. They're an independent organization. They have no skin in the game as far as like getting us to go one way or the other. They're an independent organization. They're going to give us an unbiased opinion, and then that's going to give us the information, and then we'll make the decision on how to get there. Yes, sir.
Well, our industry is tourism. And other places that have industry is well aware that if they've got a meter of certain size, they've got to pay for that, the availability of that water. And right now, there's absolutely there's no difference between a citizen's minimum bill and the Crescent Hotel that has a big old meter, and we got to provide that a lot of water and a lot of sewer plant for them.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
They need to pay for that.
And one of the things that I was surprised at, like I said, I did a huge deep dive into this in the last couple of weeks. One of the things that I was surprised at, and I wish I had brought the numbers, but I didn't know we were going to talk about all this, but is, we've got 1,700 meters, 1,500 of them are an inch or below. So when you get up into the 2-inch, the 3-inch, the biggest meter that we have is a 3-inch, and there's not very many of those. And I think 2-inch, we had 90-something meters. I'm just off the top of my head. And then the biggest meter we had was the water sewer plant, which was a 4-inch meter, and that was we only had one of those. So that's one of the things I kind of talked to Dan about was, is that going to, if we do diversify and go down to by meter size, is that going to get us where we need to go to be able to charge those people more money for that are using the higher amounts of water? So that's one of the things that he's looking into, because like you're saying, we don't have a big factory. We don't have big things like that where there's a lot of commercial, considered commercial, businesses as far as like that are big plants or whatever that use a considerable amount of water. We've got hotels, restaurants, things like that.
They use a lot of water.
But a lot of those are still on your smaller meter, some of them. So that's what I'm saying is how are you going to capture that when they're on a smaller meter too? So there's a lot of pieces to this, and that's one of the things that hopefully with the straight study that we're going to be able to delve deeper into. Yes, ma'am.
So when do you think, I like that they're going to offer solutions. Are they looking at just how we'll handle it within our 2,000 plus citizens? Are we going to look at, are they looking at maybe a tax increase where it's shared maybe with tourism so that as our tourists come into town, they help pay for what they're using? Are they looking at all of that, or are they just looking at what we do as a city?
No, they're looking at all of that. And one of the things that they're looking at is, okay, say we've kind of talked about a $6 to $8 million project. So what he's looking at is he's looking at our revenue versus our expenses, and he's trying to make sure that we've got more revenue coming in than we got expenses going out. Mm-hmm. Then he's also trying to get us to a point where we have a debt coverage ratio large enough to where we can afford to go out and get a $6 million loan if we need to and be able to service that debt. Mm-hmm. So what he does is he does this chart to where what he showed me so far, and he's, we got our revenue, we got our expenses, and then at this point, we're going to need to throw in a loan, or we're going to need to throw in this over here for $6 million or $7 million. Where are we going to need to be able to get to be able to pay for that, to where the water department is paying for it and not the city paying for it for the water department? So he is taking that kind of stuff into consideration. We have a Zoom meeting about once every 2 or 3 weeks, and it's with Zane and Simon and myself and him, and they bring in their part of how much they're going to need for different things, and then I bring in my part of the finances of what we're, what our revenue expenditures are and stuff like that. And so it's a marriage of all of those things together to try to get us where we need to go. So, yes, sir.
Steve?
So if you can't go by meter size, can you just register an address saying it's a rental cottage or a 3-unit rental property? Or
it's, that's another thing, is we don't right now have a distinction between commercial and residential. But you've got so many instances to where, it's been a residence, and then it goes into a rental, and then back into a residence. And some of the B&Bs are now in the houses, and some of the houses are B&Bs. So it's going to, and that's what Dan and I have been talking about, is that we're a pretty unique situation. We're not like a normal town. We have a lot of differences, and that's one of the things where I got him all the numbers the other day on the different types of sizes that we have, to kind of see if that leads anywhere. So, it's going to be a lot on gallons, and this thing is very encompassing. I mean, we have been working on it for a long time. He's been working on it for a long time. There's a lot of data that's going into this.
Right.
And
Because I always heard 2/3 of the buildings in town are either vacation homes or rental properties. They're not, and the third's only really permanent residents here.
Yeah.
Since you mentioned 605, what do you think of Mr. Stewart's request for a resolution about the historic district exemption?
Honestly, I feel like there's a lot of good in 605. I think that 605 is misunderstood by a lot of people. We've done quite a bit of research on it. I can get you Act 605. 605 is about 3 pages long. It's not a big deal. It's not a lot of in-depth thing. I can get it out to the council if y'all would like to read it. What it's trying to do is just make cities fiscally responsible for their water departments. Because if you go around to where a lot of cities, smaller cities, other cities get in trouble and have to go to the state or end up being declared insolvent or whatever, is because their water department. And so there's covenants in 605 that we have to make, but we're already doing a lot of it. Our I&I is a part of it. We have to have they want you to put like 5% of your revenue in the side to kind of hold for your repairs and that kind of stuff. We've done over that with our I&I. So we may have to rename that fund to something, what they call it. But I believe there's a lot of good in 605. I believe that 605 makes you responsible, and it makes your city say, we're going to pay for ourselves, we're going to pay for our water, and we're not going to get into a bad situation. We're not going to get into a situation like we are, where the city's having to fund the water department. Cool. Yes, sir.
So just for clarification, how many times has Carol Boone raised the water that we have to buy from them? And in turn, how many times against that have we raised the rates for residents?
I would have to go back and look at all the data on that, but I came in 2022 was my first year, and they raised the rates in 23 and 24. They raise them in January. They usually notify us in November that they're going to raise the rates in January. They give us about a 30-day notice. But when you look back on the last time we have raised rates here, we raised them in 23 here. But prior to that, I believe it was like 2019, 2020, somewhere along there. It had been 3 or 4 years since we had raised the rates. But in the last 2 or 3 years, they have been pretty steady about raising it every January. And so for the last 2 January since I've been here, they've raised them in January. So this past January and the one before. I have not, she's not sent me anything. Like I said, normally she lets me know in November that it's going to be raised. But
So we know they're going to raise it every January, more than likely, and we've only raised rates twice since 2022, is that what you said?
we've only raised them once since 2022.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Ms. Groening?
I guess it would be how much did they raise it as opposed to how much we've raised it, and what we have done, has that been covering what they have raised it?
No, we've been eating it for a couple of years now. They've been raising it about 25 cents per 1,000 gallons. And so we have been absorbing that cost, which is kind of where it's got us into the situation to where, at one time, the water department was closer to paying for itself, and was paying for itself. And the city, if you, like the chart that I gave in the budget, in 2021, I believe we loaned the water department like $20,000 and that was it. This month, this year, we're loaning them $500,000.
So where did that offset change? Like, was it last year? Was it the year before?
It's been over the course of the last 2 or 3 years. There's just been a lot of resistance to us raising rates. We've had, a lot of people have came out and, said we can't raise rates. We don't want to raise rates. We don't want to do that. And it's kind of got, we had a really hard time getting the last rate raised through, and we only raised the water. We didn't raise the sewer. Now our sewer is, we don't have the money to pay for our sewer. So now we need to substantially raise our sewer rates. So we need to stay up and start making more, when it gets raised to us, we need to keep up with it. And that's one of the things that this act is going to do, is require us to stay financially stable in the water department.
Many cities, Berryville, Green Forest, have an ordinance that allows, it's an automatic, every time Carol Boone raises their rates 25 cents or whatever, it's automatically raised with us. But we've not done that, and for several years, we've just been absorbing that cost and to help our citizens, but in the long run, it's hurt the city.
I think the one of the rate, because I've kind of gone back and I've prepared this book that has all the ordinances in it, the water and kind of the bills and things like that are involved in it. And one of the rates, they even just said, okay, 30 cents across the board, we're going to raise it. And that was the ordinance that was passed. So I'm thinking that was probably in response to a 30-cent raise by, Carol Boone. So, that was, they didn't list the rates of what they were going to be or anything. They just said a 30-cent across the board raise was all the ordinance said. So.
All right, any other questions? What's the council want to do on the,
Well,
Hang on,
how much
ordinance.
exactly are we raising it?
go ahead.
How much are we exactly raising it?
Right now, what's before you is a 25% raise across
that's
the
25.
board for water, and then it's a little bit higher than that for sewer, because what we're trying to do is, for the longest, our water rates matched our sewer rates, and then whenever we kind of started raising, because we were like, we got to do something, and so we raised some water rates, but we didn't raise the sewer rates, and now that's really hurting us. So what we want to do is bring that equal back and put them back to where they're equal like they were before. So,
I think we figured out it's almost $10 for water and sewer.
on the base,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Total.
$4 on water and $6 on sewer,
Yes.
So like
approximately.
10 and 10.
That's on the first 2,000 gallons, yeah.
So Mr. Myers made a motion. Are we going to,
Well, there wasn't a second to defer it. So it's whatever the council wants to do.
I'll withdraw my motion after Michael has spoke, let's read ordinance 2360 by title only.
Second.
Suspend the rules.
Second.
Mr. Alonzino, was that you second? Okay. Mr. Meyer made the motion and Mr. Alonzino seconded. Any further discussion?
Steve Holofield,
yes.
Susan Gruning,
Yes.
Harry Meyer,
Yes.
Autumn Slane,
Yes.
David Avanzino.
Yes.
Ordinance number 2360, an ordinance increasing the rates for water and wastewater usage.
Move to approve ordinance 2360, this third reading.
Second.
Mr. Meyer made the motion to approve 2360 and Mr. Holyfield seconded, to read it for the third and final reading. Any further discussion? Hearing none?
Harry Meyer,
Yes.
David Avanzino,
Yes.
Steve Holofield,
Yes.
Susan Gruning,
Yes.
Autumn Slane.
Yes.
Is that a no, Ms. Slane?
It was a yes.
Yes.
That was a yes, okay, so 5-0.
Do they want to read the emergency clause?
Big fun?
There's an emergency clause. I don't know if anyone wants to read that.
And he made the motion to read it.
There's an emergency clause.
Oh,
I move to invoke the emergency clause and to read it.
okay. Got a motion to, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Holyfield made the motion to read the emergency clause, and Mr. Myers seconded. Any further discussion? All right. Roll call?
David Avanzino,
Yes.
Steve Holofield,
Yes.
Harry Meyer,
Yes.
Autumn Slane,
Yes.
Susan Gruning.
Yes.
Emergency Clause, Section 7, that due to the need to consistently apply all laws and ordinances of the City of Eureka Springs for the health and safety of the citizens of the city, an emergency is hereby declared to exist, and this ordinance shall take effect upon passage by the Eureka Springs City Council, signing by the Eureka Springs Mayor and City Clerk Treasurer, and posting of the ordinance.
All right, thank you. All right, that brings us up to our next item of business is B&B's Cup Revocation Appeal for 8 Washington. Get a motion to discuss.
Motion to discuss the appeal for 8 Washington, is it?
Yeah.
Second.
All right. Ms. Green made the motion and Mr. Amanzino seconded. This is an appeal from the Planning Commission for an application for conditional use, actually for continuing to have a conditional use permit for Jonas and Jamie Furston. They missed the meeting on October the 8th, as they say, due to a technical error, and the committee had some inaccurate information, which made them lose their CUP, and they'd like to appeal that decision to prove that they are in compliance. They are here tonight. If the council would like to have any questions for them. Ms. Graney?
Should we ask planning to come up?
Sure, we can do that.
Is Susan Harmon here?
Yep.
Give us the,
And in your packet, there's items from the Planning Commission along with other documents on there. Susan?
Yeah, so basically what we did was we put together a timeline for you as far as when all of this began and why they were brought in and the issues that we had, and then all the way up until our last meeting, which was on the 8th of October, where their CUP was revoked. So I know that there were some additional items that they provided to the city within their appeal. And then I think that was on 10/28. So hopefully you all got all of that information. I can say that I did kind of review after we received their information on 10/28. I did review some of the issues that we had prior to as far as how they were advertising and things like that. And it does look like on their listings that I saw that they have corrected the items that we did ask for. So it's really up to you all. Yes, or do you have a question?
So I watched the commission meeting, and there was concerns that the person they rented the center unit to was just long-term rental, not a manager.
Yeah, so the confusion was from the time we started this show cause was that that at one time we had co-managers, then we had a manager across the street, and then we had a manager again, which was tenant/manager. So that was a concern of us because it didn't seem like we were really getting a good answer on that particular item. Because as you know, in a residential area as a B&B CUP, you either have to be an owner living on property or you have to have a manager that lives on property. So
These owners don't live in town, right?
Pardon?
These owners don't live in town, or it's a
The
state,
owners do
right?
not live in town. They are here, as is the individual that they have as their manager. So if you want to ask any questions of them.
So, they've got a tenant, but now they're calling the tenant their manager?
You've got, you read the information that you received,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And you received something additional from them on 10/28, which was an agreement for their manager, who is also their tenant. So
Yes, Ms. Graney?
so they had a manager on site, then they didn't?
again, the timeline here, the information that we were given was that they had, originally when they were brought in for their show cause or received their letter, we were told that they had co-managers, which was the individual living on property and the lady across the street. then on the business license that was submitted within the checklist, it was stated that the individual living across the street was their manager. Since then, or after that, then we were told that their tenant was their manager. So that was kind of a big issue for the Planning Commission. I don't know why it was done that way, but that was the information that we received either through email, through documentation through the city, and or the original conversation I think that was done, that was made with Kyle when they received their show cause letter. So again, like I said, they're here, the owners are here, they do live out of town, and their manager/tenant is here as well.
Okay.
So they were advertising as Airbnb instead of B&B?
Okay, so on their Airbnb listing originally, they did not state that they were a bed and breakfast. So,
Ms. Gurney?
I think the owners should probably come up so we can ask questions.
yep.
Thanks, Susan.
Thank you, yeah.
Everyone, thanks for having us. I'm
You
Joe.
might need to raise the microphone or speak
Sorry.
more into it. Yeah.
I'm a little taller. There we go. First off, thank you for having us out here. I want to start off with an apology, not only to the commission, but also for council. We shouldn't be here now. We have to take responsibility. We do have certain responsibilities with certain actions that were done, all of which was unintentional. When we initially bought the property, can you guys hear me now? I can't hear. Okay. When we initially bought the property, we didn't have the intention of managing the property and kind of operating it ourselves. We own multiple properties out of state where we have done this for many years, but being new to the area, not as familiar with the guidelines and the laws, we actually hired a local property manager to kind of assist with this process. She assured us that she was aware of all of the CUP requirements. She actually sent us a link to her listings that did include several listings here in the historic district. We talked about the mandatory requirement that, because we had two CUP permits, and then one was for a long-term, or we had to occupy the property. The gentleman that we purchased the property from initially were living in the home, and obviously we weren't able to satisfy that requirement. So the condition for her, the instructions for her, was to find somebody who was going to be a long-term tenant that was also going to satisfy the role as far as the on-site manager. Fast forward, there were some things that were some inaccuracies, some untruths with her that were not only affected us, but also affected Corey, who's here tonight, and some misunderstandings, and we ended up letting her go. She didn't even get our property listed for over a month until I brought it up to her attention, and then when we secured the tenant / on-site manager, Corey, I confirmed with her and asked her point blank if she was the on-site management role. So as what we had discussed with Aspen prior to, leading up and after, was that she gave us a market summary as far as what the comps were for the rentals. And she said the best thing that we could do would be offer a below market rate as far as with the rents and include utilities as part of compensation for somebody who would act in that capacity. So we agreed to that. That was our understanding, and so that was what happened. Fast forward, again, once we learned that that wasn't the case, and learned that some other things had been misrepresented and untruth, we ended up letting her go. And because she obviously wasn't looking out for our interest, she wasn't in compliance, she had misrepresented to Corey, which kind of led to some problems where here we're at. So at that time, we thought we were in compliance because when she had secured the tenant, she had assured us that everything else was in compliance. So when we got the letter from the Planning Commission stating the items that were still outstanding, was basically a shock to us. So at that time, within, I want to say, 2 days, we had pretty much everything ready to go, everything set up, presented that, sent that over. I'd been in communication via email with Susan over the course of this time. I jumped on the September hearing. I know the show cause wasn't set for then. I didn't really know what the process was, so I just jumped onto the Zoom at that time. And so it was kind of an impromptu, like, well, this isn't your show cause, so they voted to reschedule to have the actual hearing on the 8th. I pretty much talked to everybody at the city at this point. So Kyle, Glenna, Ida, Kim, everyone, and confirmed that the Zoom meeting was that evening, because the link was the exact same as the previous meeting. So I just want to make sure that it wasn't a typo, because usually when there's meetings, there'll be a unique Zoom link. So I just verified. So I actually emailed Ida that morning. And then when I had it on my calendar for my Google Calendar, I had the wrong time zone. And yeah, I wish I felt that way, but I didn't. And so we ended up missing the meeting entirely. So we didn't get a chance to present everything. We didn't get a chance to have this discussion. And that's when I reached out, sent an email to Ida. I think Susan was on the email. I reached out to Mayor Barry, explaining the situation, and because I could see what the optics would be with that. You know, to see the fact that would think that we didn't take this seriously, that we didn't care, that we just didn't show up. There's no way in hell we would, there's no way in heck that we would have purchased a property here, gone through the hassle, the trouble. You know, we put a lot of love, sweat, and tears in this property. We love and adore this property. We've literally already been out here 5 times in the city. Yeah, we've been out here 5 times.
And our neighbors and people.
Yeah, we've got our neighbors here. We have multiple letters. I don't know if you had a chance to review the packet, but in the short period of time that we've been out here, we've made a lot of friends, a lot of connections, a lot of good people, and so it's very disheartening to us to, you know, see that this potentially was all going away based on errors. But like I said, we do have to take ownership because there were errors and mistakes on our end. I'm not here to play the blame game, but I did want to explain kind of the series of events that kind of led up to that kind of led to where we are today. So.
Any questions? Mr. Almazzino?
Yeah, just doing a quick search on you guys on Google. It says that you're a venture capitalist and a real estate agent?
I'm not a venture capitalist. Okay. I wish I was.
But you're a real estate investor, have properties?
I've been a realtor for 20 years.
How many properties do you own across the U.S. that you rent out for?
We have 5.
And those are all short-term rentals?
Nope. Our daughter lives in one of them. We have a long-term rental, and then we have multiple short-term rentals. We've got a property in Bisbee, which is kind of the sister property to Eureka Springs. We've got one in Tombstone, Arizona. We have our primary. We have this property, and then we have one in Tempe, Arizona, which is where our daughter lives with her roommate.
Okay.
Mr. Myers?
Do you have another bed and breakfast someplace?
We don't. This is our only bed and breakfast. Yep.
Well, bed and breakfasts are kind of a special niche.
Correct.
Your manager has to prepare breakfast for those guests, you know.
We were not told that. We were,
Huh?
we were not told
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And we tried to find.
That's what a bed and breakfast is all about, is getting breakfast,
I
bed.
understand, and I did read the ordinance, and I actually asked for Ida just to make sure that I had a correct copy of the ordinance. And correct me if I'm wrong, it doesn't specifically specify that the on-site manager has to prepare the breakfast per se. We do offer breakfast we have since day one. Before we even had this issue, when we had Aspen managing at the property right out the gate, we've always had continental breakfast. We've always had muffins, we've always had granola, we've always had oatmeal, and we've always had snacks right out the gate. Coffee, creamers, yeah. That's always been the case.
That doesn't meet a bed and breakfast.
The ordinance says provide breakfast, doesn't say you have to make it, I think.
It doesn't say it has to be
It's a
cooked
meal.
or whatever.
That's a meal.
Provide.
Okay.
Ms. Slane?
How do you choose your cities? How did you choose Eureka?
Yeah.
We-
This one, we don't have that many cities.
Need to speak into the microphone, please.
We don't have that many cities. We have Tombstone, Bisbee, they're right by each other and they're right by our home. And we went to Bisbee and fell in love with Bisbee, and then eventually found this house like when we were just there visiting and did it and bought that and ran it as Airbnb. We only do places that we love. I want people to that stay there to love it as much as us. We came here because our friends know about our Bisbee place and they said, you would love this town. It looks just like Bisbee. So we came out here and we fell in love with it. We saw that house and thankfully it worked out because it's like a triplex. We could have a renter and someone there that can look over the home since it's not in our state. But yes, no, we love it that. We only love the properties. The properties we have, we love. We're not like investors where we buy things and we're never there. We go to all our properties all the time. Share them with our family. We love them. We love this place too.
We're very hands-on. So what introduced us to Eureka Springs is a friend of ours. She works in Bentonville. She comes back and forth. Her and her husband were out here, and we've taken them to Bisbee. We go to all our places. Every single one of our places we stay at, we use them. We enjoy them. So it's not just an investment for us. It's not just a business. As a realtor, I don't have a 401k. I don't have a retirement. I don't have a pension. I don't have any of these things. That's what I do is real estate. That's what I know. So my wife and I, we make a good team. Her strengths are my weaknesses, vice versa. I'm the sales guy, I'm the marketing guy, I'm the maintenance guy, I'm the general contractor. I'm all those things. She does the, the cleaning, the, scheduling, the ordering the product, the guests. But Rebecca was out here. She sent us some pictures, and I was like, "Where's this?" And she's all, "Eureka Springs, Arkansas." And she's like, "You guys would love it." She literally said, "It's Bisbee of the Ozarks." And I said, "Say no more." We were literally out here 8 days later. And we fell in love with the place. We came out here, we fell in love with the place. We do have roots here. I know I put that in my email. My mom's family's from Springfield, Missouri. My wife's grandmother's from a little, I don't even know what town it is, but a little tiny town in Arkansas, in middle Arkansas. But we came out here, we love it. We love the town, we love the people. So, I just wanted to express that because I feel like, I'm sorry. I just want to express that because I feel that we just get clumped in with other people that truly don't care and don't have passion and aren't hands-on. We're very hands-on. We're very communicative, not only with Corey and with our cleaner, with our guests. We've got multiple cameras throughout the properties. We're very clear with kind of what the expectations are. We've met all of our neighbors. We're friends with all of our neighbors. They all have our numbers. Well, if there's ever any problems, please let us know. We want to be an integrated part of the community, not just an investor.
Ms. Green?
So I can't speak for all of council, but I know for me, I don't like to see a business closed down. Corey, your manager, I did ask for you to bring Corey.
Yep.
Has Corey always been the one that was renting?
Mm-hmm.
And so why did it go to somebody across the street?
That's our cleaner. We have multiple, it takes a lot.
Oops,
It takes a lot to run a property, so we always made sure we had backup cleaners and people that can take care of the property. And at that point, we just thought the on-site manager, someone needed to be there, kind of take care of the mail and stuff like that, and
Okay.
she was one of the cleaners.
So the person across the street was never a manager?
Well, she's our cleaner. She calls herself our manager. She's our lead
Okay, but
cleaner, and she
there's
looks after
a
the house.
manager and then you
I know, I
have
think the
clean.
title's getting confused, but she calls herself our manager, but she's our cleaner, neighbor, looks after the property. I think the more
Okay.
eyes, the better. And that's Bev, and I love Bev, but she calls herself the manager.
Okay,
She's not
so-
technically the manager, I guess.
You now meet all the criteria, and you have your on-site manager, and Corey will validate that. And you've changed your website descriptions to say that you're a B&B, and now you're at city council. And so, and you already explained what was different back then to what's now. Okay, I think I'm good.
Can I say one more thing?
It's a learning curve.
It is a learning curve. We would never go through this hassle and a headache to throw it all away.
You're not trying to get
Nobody in their
attention.
right mind would ever do this. And the more that I've been in this town and the more that I've heard, and I do know that there are some people that are just trying to skirt the rules, you know what I mean, and do the bare minimum. If not that, that's not us. It's never been us, never will be us, and I have now become an expert on all the ordinances and everything from this point forward. So, we just ask for grace and for forgiveness because we did make mistakes. So,
Mr. Myers?
I've stayed at several bed and breakfasts, and if I got up and went down to breakfast and had biscuits and rolls and snack food and a coffee, I would be seriously disappointed. I'm used to sitting at a dining table with the other guests and having a meal spread out by the person who owns the bed and breakfast. I don't consider that a bed and breakfast, personally.
Ms. Swain?
I think it's unfortunate, the trail of events, but I, as well, have been stuck in the same situation with our very city because it is sometimes hard to navigate. But I am a little concerned with the juking of management. That seems a little, but I think you're on a better path. I think that you guys brought this property to do this, and it would be such a disservice for us to not let you have that at this point.
Appreciate it.
But,
There was no intentional juking, just to be clear.
right?
What we had asked, the manager was not conveyed to Corey, and we didn't find out until later. And so when we made the agreement with Corey later, we actually amended the lease, sent it over. That was never communicated to her as well. So at that point, we found out the mess that a hired professional had put us in, and we had to figure out a way to remedy it. So it was never intentional. It wasn't trying to be deceitful. It wasn't trying to. I promise you that.
Thank you.
And Corey could back that up. So I don't want to speak on her behalf. But.
Ms. Greening?
So every B&B will decide what they want to serve for a meal. I was at Martha's Vineyard, and I had cereal and donuts. So I choose to not go back to that particular one, and that's a choice that people
You
can
just
make
choose not to go there.
when they go to a B&B. But I would like to make a motion to approve their appeal.
Second.
All right, Ms. Greening made a motion to approve their appeal for an application for a conditional use permit, and Mr. Holyfield seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
All right, I think that's 4-1. Is that right?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, council.
Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
And glad
We
to have you
promise
here.
we won't be back unless it's for better circumstances.
All right.
Well, I don't live far from you, so I saw you putting up your Halloween decorations.
Oh, you did?
All right,
live
now you
behind
need
Rob.
to come down and,
Rob.
you need to come down and see the city clerk and establish the rest of the, don't you need to finish up with you? Or is she all done with all that?
They're all done. They already have the CUP. They are just allowed to continue it now.
Okay.
You're good to go.
If she says you're good, you're good. All right. Thank y'all. Okay, that brings us up to get a motion to discuss area development plan from the Planning Commission.
Motion to discuss.
Second.
All right, Mr. Holyfield made the motion to discuss, and Ms. Greening seconded. And our Planning Commission chairman's going to tell us.
I'm going to beg. So basically, this is just me being here representing the Planning Commission tonight. So we're just here to ask for your support because the Planning Commission made a decision, had a vote, had a discussion to tackle an area development plan here for Eureka Springs. So you guys are, I'm sure, aware of the planning area map, but planning has the ability to put together other plans for the city. Planning area map obviously has shows the city boundaries, streets, residential zones, commercial zones, all of that. And that's what basically we use a lot of times when it comes to the ordinances and the regulations that are in place that have been passed by City Council. Our ask is to go the next step, which is to develop an area development plan that allows us to look at future areas of growth outside the current city limits. We held a workshop in September. We met with Jim Van Tuglin, who is with Municipal League, to discuss the possibility, and it was determined that we could create an ADP that would allow us to look at future growth areas up to 1 mile from the current city limits of Eureka Springs. I think our book right now says 5 miles, and I'll have to send an email to Ida to just check that. Jim says it used to be 5 miles, but now it's 1 mile. So we just need a clarification on that, but basically our discussion was to go out 1 mile, that we have the ability to do that to create this plan. We decided that it would be in our best interest to get a buy-in from all of you first, so rather than put all the effort into it and then come here and you say no, we'd be like, wah, wah. So.
We're so
Try that again.
But there is going to be some expense associated with doing this plan. We do have to go ahead and have discussions on where we think we would like to expand the city within that mile. There's some simple ones, which would be, okay, we're going to go out a mile from the entire city limits boundary. We could do that, which would be an easy one, but there is expense with that because when we go about doing a legal description, we have to make sure that it's right before it's filed. So it gets filed in Berryville at the county clerk's office, or I guess it's is it the county clerk's office? Anyway, in Berryville. Want to make sure that the description is correct. So we will probably hire somebody to make sure that that description is correct before it's filed. So if you're open to us doing that, we're looking for a motion to vote either yes or no on this project to allow us to move forward. That's why I'm here, and that's why it's on your agenda. So,
Ms. Lane?
So is this about moving the city limits, or is this about the plan?
So this is about the plan. So the only way that we can file this with the county clerk's office is if we actually have a plan. It's, we've got a legal description for what areas we think we want to expand the town. So if you think about this, I don't know why there was never a plan like this put in place, because the city had the ability to do it. Planning had the ability to do it for years after they had the area map that was established. Nothing's ever been done. It is for future growth. So do we think there's the opportunity for future growth in Eureka Springs? Berryville has expanded their city limits quite a few times by doing this area development plan and then saying, okay, we're going to look at this area, we're going to look at this area and see if that's something that makes sense for the city to grow. This may be something that sits on file for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, but at least that area has been established through this process.
Okay.
So that's why we're here. It doesn't make sense for us to put all the time and effort into it if you guys have no interest in it. But it is something that something that I think should be done for the city. Probably should have been done years ago. Never was. So here we are.
Mr. Meyer?
Sounds like a good idea for future. I can think we couldn't do it right now because we couldn't provide water and sewer to those.
You don't have to provide water and sewer.
Yeah, so our discussion.
No, if we annex.
You don't have to, even if you annex.
That's what I thought you told me.
Okay, so our discussion, Harry, with Municipal League was that you can provide everything, but at the very minimum, what was suggested to us was that we would provide police, we would provide fire, and we would provide waste management for those areas, if that moved forward to that point. But this is just a discussion on a area development map, which we do not have. So we can't get to future development until we have this in place. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Ovenzino?
Yeah, I think it sounds like a really good plan. I'm curious to know, did the Planning Commission develop areas that were prioritized?
So we haven't done anything yet. This is an ask to tell you that this is what we'd like to do. We don't want to waste our time. We don't want to waste your time. But we also know that if this is something that City Council is in agreement with, then we'll go through the process and determine what areas make the most sense and bring that back to you. And then, because ultimately, this plan is going to have to be voted on by City Council anyway. So
And you're essentially just asking us, sorry to interrupt, you're just asking us to approve a plan.
Us moving forward with
Okay.
developing a plan, knowing that this is what we're doing and knowing that there will be an expense associated with it to make sure that the legal description is right. I don't know what that's going to be. I have no idea, but we don't know until we know, right? So.
Mr. Mars?
Do we do it by resolution?
We can just do it by voice, I think.
I think this is absolutely so important and so imperative for our city to move forward. If you don't have a plan, you're not going anywhere.
Right.
This is something that Susan and I have talked about for quite a bit, because I think it is important, and this is the first step. Once we get that plan, then we can get a resolution to adopt it. But right now, this is just giving them the ability to say the city council is in favor of looking at this as an area development plan for 1 mile outside the city limits to see what the future possibility is for Eureka. And I think that's something long due, and it's a first step into seeing where we're going for the future. So, Ms. Gruny?
So do we do
Just make a motion to approve Planning Commission's.
Just to move forward on the plan.
Okay, a motion to approve this commission act and to move forward with it.
Yeah.
Second.
All right. Got a motion by Ms. Gruning and a second by Mr. Meyer to approve the Planning Commission to go ahead with the area development plan as proposed. So, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
All right. You don't need to go far.
Yeah, you're next.
Yeah.
I'm going to have Ann come up because
Oh, okay.
Ann has been the one that's been working on this next item. So.
All right. We'll swap Planning Commission people. Get a motion to discuss bed and breakfast ordinance.
I move we discuss bed and breakfast ordinance.
Second.
All right. In your package, you have a ordinance for the Planning Commission, from the Planning Commission. On your ordinance, the things that are new are going to be omitted or struck out with a line. And I think the ones that are new are underlined. Is that, no?
No,
Just struck out.
There's only
Things just
strikes.
taken out.
yeah.
So we don't have anything that's new. We have 2 bed and breakfasts that are.
We
underlined, so.
have new, but they're not underlined.
All right, well, go ahead.
Well, I hope everybody's had a chance to review it. The first one, in a nutshell, well, let me back up. So we had several workshops with the residents of Eureka, and the consensus was they don't want any more new bed and breakfasts. This first one is basically our original definition, but what is happening is that if a bed and breakfast is sold, whether it be a grandfather or a tourist lodging, it must be owner occupied. There will be no more managers. The managers are what are causing most of the problems. So that's the biggest change on that one. Yeah, once it's transferred, no more managers. It must be owner occupied. The second section is that currently in our code book, our ordinance book, we address legal non-conforming and CAPC taxes. We don't address it for CUPs. So basically this is saying that before you get transferred, if you sell it, you have to be current on all your CAPC taxes. That's the number 2. On number 3, you will have to list your business license in the description of your advertisement. City may revoke a conditional use permit for violation of any condition of the permit, including failure to list the business license number in the description or title and non-payment of taxes. Number 4 defines a unit. A unit is defined as 1 bedroom which sleeps 2 people. And the reason for this is we have parking requirements here in Eureka. So if you have a 1-bedroom house that is a tourist lodging that has a parking space, and you decide to convert the dining room to a bedroom, then you would need another parking space, which you would not have. So we are actually defining the unit, which we never have before.
Is this a maximum? A 1-bedroom which sleeps,
One bedroom sleeps 2 people. You can have 5 units, but you have to have the parking for them. We're defining the unit to go along with our parking requirements. And then section 5 basically is saying that the attached list in sections 1, 2, and 3 are the only bed and breakfast permitted. There will be no new ones added. These can be transferred, whether they're a CUP or grandfather, as long as they're in good standing. They will continue to do that. If they are sold and the people decide to make them single-family homes again, they won't be bed and breakfast again. It goes away. Susan?
Ms. Green?
So if it goes away, is a person down the road, if they purchase it, able to apply for a CUP? And if they meet all the requirements of obtaining a CUP, able to get it?
No. Once it goes back to single family, I mean, might come for a variance. But no, they could come for a variance maybe if they wanted to, but no, once it's no longer a bed and breakfast.
So it just slowly diminishes?
Yes.
And we will not have B&Bs anymore?
R1, R2, and R3, this has nothing to do with commercial.
Correct.
This is residential neighborhoods only.
Okay.
Mr. Holyfield?
So everything's grandfathered in. So if you have a B right now with the owner not living there, that stays that way until it's sold and then it changes? Is that right?
There can be nothing grandfathered. It will stay. If they're a grandfather now, they stay a grandfather. If they're a CUP, they stay a CUP. If they have a manager now, it stays that way.
Okay.
If they sell the property, it can only be owner occupied.
Okay. But again, commercial is anything, commercial, you can start a new B&B up there.
Planning Commission has never, it's my understanding, and Ida help me on this, if it's commercial and the owner doesn't live in a bed and breakfast, then it converts to tourist lodging. Is that correct? Yeah.
Say that again?
Pardon me?
Can you repeat that, please?
If it's a bed and breakfast in commercial zoning, and they don't want to have an owner-manager there, then that property converts from a bed and breakfast to a tourist lodging.
Okay.
That's really nothing we have
Get to overnight lodging.
control over.
But it's allowable because it's in commercial zone.
Correct.
Right.
Ms. Slane?
So what happens to these few people that have these in these R1s and they try to sell their property, but they can't sell their business with it?
What do you mean they can't sell their business with it?
Because they can no longer have a cup.
Oh, they can. They can transfer it, just like they do now. But what we're saying is you can transfer it, but you can't have a manager. You have to live there. Bed and breakfasts are an owner-based business. That's how they started out. So it's like if I have a bed and breakfast and I have a manager and I put it up for sale and you want to buy it, you're going to have to live there.
Okay, but didn't you just say that if it was sold, then it couldn't be grandfathered in?
If it's sold and it reverts to a single family,
Okay,
it's not going to be a bed and breakfast again. It's going to be a single family home.
right.
Yeah. But we can't grandfather anything in anymore.
Grandfather, it's, for people who aren't familiar, are existing units that were in business before we established the regulations. So there are no,
Okay,
just because you got a bed and breakfast and you just got a conditional use permit. If you've got a conditional use permit, it's not grandfathered. That conditional use permit is transferable. But once it's gone, you may not get it back.
And the same as the grandfather. It's transferable too. We just had one recently, I think, that has converted to back to a single family. And so it won't be a bed and breakfast again.
Susan?
And so once it's a single family, nobody can come along and say the single family then wants to sell it. I couldn't come along and say, oh, I'd like to make that a B&B now, or a tourist lodging.
Nope.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I just want to state that we've got plenty of tourist lodging.
All right, are you on which section are you on?
I believe I'm done. Oh, let me look here on the,
Section
Very
6.
next page. Yes, and then section 6 basically just reinforces that. Upon transfer of an LNC or a continuance of a CUP to new ownership, the owner must reside on the property.
Legal nonconforming. Legal nonconforming.
Legal, non-conforming, and grandfather are one and the same.
Is there any other changes? That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Are we up to date on our current existing use permits under the legal nonconforming?
Yes.
Isn't that under the section 10?
So
Okay, I thought we had some that were taken out.
Yeah, there's some that got taken off, but they're not.
All right.
There's one that got taken off.
All right. Council members, what's your desires?
I move to assign the ordinance a number and read it and approve first reading.
Second.
All right. Mr. Holyfield made a motion to assign this a number and read it for the first reading, and Mr. Avanzino seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, so moved.
Assigning ordinance number 2364, an ordinance amending Title 1408 of the Eureka Springs Municipal Code regarding zoning districts. Whereas the Planning Commission of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas has made a comprehensive study and review of Title 14 of the Municipal Code, whereas in the opinion of the Planning Commission, certain changes should be made to the Municipal Code. Now therefore be it hereby ordained by the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Section 1, Eureka Springs Municipal Code 14.08.130 shall be amended to bed and breakfast, a dwelling or area containing one or more structures, at least one of which is occupied by an owner on site, where for compensation, lodging, and breakfast are provided. Guests may not stay longer than 28 days, and total units may not exceed 5. For the purpose of this section, on-site shall be defined as adjoining, i.e. sharing a boundary, and shall not include properties separated by a city street, roadway, green space, or alley. Sorry. Section 2, Eureka Springs Municipal Code 14.08.08a, conditional use permits, CUP, will add prior to a continuance of a CUP or a legal nonconformant LNC property. Documentation shall be required from the City Advertising and Promotion Commission, CAPC, confirming the existing owners have a current permit and are up to date on tax payments. Section 3, Eureka Springs Municipal Code 14.08.08G, revocation of a conditional use permit shall add the following language. All booking listings and advertisements of a conditional use permit must list the business number in the description or title. The city may revoke a conditional use permit for violation of any condition of the permit, including failure to list the business license number in the description or title and non-payment of CAPC taxes. Eureka Springs, Section 4, Eureka Springs Municipal Code 14.08.13, definitions shall add the definition of unit as it pertains to tourist lodging and bed and breakfast shall be defined as one bedroom which sleeps 2 people. Section 5, bed and breakfast with the exception of existing legal nonconforming and conditional use permits at the time of this ordinance shall not be permitted in zones R1, R2, and R3. Henceforth, it shall be a misdemeanor to rent property as a bed and breakfast within any residential zone within the City of Eureka Springs, punishable by a fine of up to $250 for each event. Each 24-hour period of any bed and breakfast rental shall be considered a separate offense. Section 6, upon transfer of the illegal nonconforming bed and breakfast or continuance of a conditional use permit to new ownership, the owners must reside on the property. Section 7, Chapter 14, zoning section 14.08.01 shall be amended to reflect the following. District R1 Victorian Residential, C2 conditional uses. The following is a list of conditional uses in R3 Multiple Family Residential District. These uses require a conditional use permit. Building use for religious services, daycare, small education, wedding establishment, home occupation involving access by the general public, boarding house, community service center, dwelling, multiple family, healthcare provider. Legal nonconforming buildings. 2 bed and breakfast, 6 Douglas, 23 Hillside, 7 Kings Highway, 104 Wall Street, 5 Ridgeway, 263 Spring Street, 5 Summit. Existing conditional use uses. 2 bed and breakfast, 12 Eccles, 18 Nut, 23 Hillside, 5 Ojo Street, 23 Elk Street, 5 Summit, 7 Armstrong, 6 Douglas, 60 Hillside, 46 Hillside, 28 Ridgeway, 56 Hillside, 8 Washington. Section 8, Chapter 4, zoning section 14.08.01 shall be amended to reflect the following. District R2 contemporary residential. C1 conditional uses. The following of lists of conditional uses in R3 multiple family residential district. These uses require conditional use permit. Building use for religious services, daycare, small and large, education, wedding establishment, home occupation involving access by the general public, boarding house, community service center, dwelling, multiple family, healthcare provider. 2 existing conditional uses. Bed and breakfast, 19 Thomas, 36 Dawson, 105 and 109 Breezy Point Circle. Section 9, Chapter 14, zoning section 14.08.01 shall be amended to reflect the following. District R3 multiple family residential conditional uses. The following list of conditional uses in the R3 multiple family residential district. These uses require a conditional use permit. Building use for religious purposes, services, healthcare provider, restaurant, no drive-through, wedding establishment, home occupation involving access by the general public, boarding house, daycare, small and large, office small, retail small. Section 10, 14.08.050 shall be amended to reflect the following. In existing conditional use permits for bed and breakfast, property status may be continued upon sale or transfer of ownership of property, provided that the buyer follows the procedures for conditional use application, including appearing before the Planning Commission in a public hearing. Existing conditional use permits for bed and breakfast. 12 Eccles, CUP 2 units in R1, 105 Jordan Drive, CUP 2 units R1, 23 Hillside, CUP 3 units R1, 5 Ojo, CUP 10 units R1, 23 Elk Street, CUP 1 units R1, 5 Summit Street, CUP 3 units R1, 7 Armstrong, CUP 4 units R1, 6 Douglas, CUP 2 units R1, 60 Hillside Avenue, CUP 5 units R1, 46 Hillside Avenue, CUP 5 units R1, 28 Ridgeway, CUP 5 units R1, 56 Hillside Avenue, CUP 5 units R1, 18 Nut, CUP 1 unit R1, 19 Thomas, CUP 3 units R2, 36 Dawson, CUP 2 units R2, 105 and 109 Breezy Point Circle, CUP 5 units R2. Section 11, all ordinances or resolutions and parts thereof in conflict herewith or hereby repealed to extent of such conflict. Section 12, each of the provisions in this ordinance are severable, and the decision of any court having jurisdiction as to the validity of any provision shall not affect the remaining provisions.
What was the ordinance number again?
2364.
Yeah. I realize 8 Washington.
2364, yeah.
Huh?
8 Washington isn't on there.
That's all.
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh, it is.
right there.
It's missing from the chart.
Down here.
I know, but it's missing from the chart. I somehow missed that.
All right, well, we can add that. All right. Get a motion to approve ordinance 2364.
I move we approve ordinance 2364 on its first reading.
Second.
All right, Mr. Meyer made the motion and Mr. Almanzino seconded. Any further discussion?
I was going to motion to move it, just so I kind of wanted to read through this again.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I was hoping to motion to vote next meeting, so I have time to read through this, just seeing it.
Well, we'll have two more readings on this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's not done tonight.
So if there's anything you want, we can always bring it up at the next meeting.
Okay.
All right, we've got a motion to approve it on the first reading. Any further discussion? Ms. Lane?
One more comment. I am a little concerned with these Victorian houses. Some of them are so pricey that it's going to price people out of living there. But, you know, that's it.
Well, we've had a couple of large homes recently sold that were B&Bs, and now they're single-family residences.
Okay, that's good news.
Yeah.
A couple of really expensive.
So,
Okay.
all right. Any further questions? All right. All those in favor of ordinance 2364 on first reading, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. So moved.
Can we get a motion for the amendment?
Huh?
A
We
motion
can
to
bring that
amend?
up for next time.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. All right. Okay, I need a motion to, for discussion on setting our November, December meeting dates.
I move we discuss November and December meeting dates for the city council.
All right.
Second.
Everybody can get their calendars out. November 28th. Whoops. November 25th. I won't be here, but that doesn't, we can always have, Terry can take it, unless we not want to have a meeting. It's a weekend after Thanksgiving,
Before.
so it's up to council.
You're talking about November 25th, correct?
25th, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the Monday before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
It's Thanksgiving the 28th, I'm sorry, yeah.
I will be absent.
Beg your pardon?
I will be absent that day.
You'll be absent?
I
That
move
helps
we,
anybody make a decision.
I move we cancel the meeting altogether. I don't think we,
Okay. How about, okay, there's a motion to cancel the meeting on the 25th of November.
Okay, second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Now, December
23rd.
the 23rd, 2 days before Christmas.
I move we cancel the meeting for December 23rd, 2024.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Mr. Holyfield made the motion, Ms. Lane seconded. Any further discussion? Cancel December 23rd for a council meeting? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, so moved. All right, that means we've got 2 meetings left, ladies and gentlemen. So we can always have special meetings if we need them. So anyway, all right, that brings us up to agenda setting. Anybody have anything at this point?
I have a quick question, Mayor. Have we done anything in the past with Veterans Day, since that also falls on a Monday?
With what?
Veterans Day?
We've always had meetings on Veterans Day.
Okay.
Yeah. Even though the city's going to be closed, we still had the meetings. Yeah. All right. City council comments. Mr. Myers, I'll start on this side of the table this time.
Well, we all got a message from the mayor about staying away from the sewer plant. It was kind of condescending, talking about how there's dangerous things down there. I've been down there a lot. I think we all need to go down there because This is a big deal. There's a lot of money being spent, and our guys that have been working those 12-hour shifts sure appreciate when people show up and show interest in their efforts. It's a stinky job. I even went and got inoculated for hepatitis and tetanus to make sure that I was going to be safe when I went down there. But there certainly isn't any reason not to keep up with the progress. And you know, to say that we have to contact someone to get us to hear about what's going on down there and get it secondhand, why don't we just each, we're intelligent enough. We don't need to wait for somebody to tell us. And besides, when the mayor said last meeting that the reason we don't have a decent sewer plant is because a 1-cent sales tax failed, it's kind of hard to tell the citizens right now that we got a $12 million budget, but we've neglected the sewer plant for 20 years, damn near 20 years. I know 15 years at least that the Lakeside hasn't been working, and the trash and garbage has been getting into. So I thank you, Mr. Mayor, to stay in your lane. We don't need to be micromanaged. That's it.
Ms. Lane?
I just want to thank everybody for a wonderful zombie crawl, and I'm so proud of all the restaurants and everybody that put on all the events. Thank you.
Mr. Avanzino?
Yeah, I'd like to echo what Autumn says about the Zombie Crawl weekend. It was fantastic. And my hat's off to Colton Scrivener and all the folks that worked on Zombie Crawl. It was a lot of fun, as well as the first annual Nightmare in the Ozarks Film Festival. That was very interesting.
Good.
And I also got a chance to attend Voices in the Silent City with my husband this weekend. Hats off to the museum and all the volunteers that made that possible. It was really interesting learning about the history of these women from Eureka Springs. And my last thank you is to the group of citizens that make up the Citizens to Save Eureka Springs to vote no on issue number 3.
What? She's dragging her case with
Okay. Mr. Holyfield?
I did go to the part of the film festival. It was very interesting. We had a couple of local entries that were really good. I really appreciate that. Also, I went to the Haunted Trail, even though it's out of town. The owner of the Bear Creek lives here in town. It was very good. CAPC workshop, 11/13, 6 p.m. Discussion will be the event coordinator. And then the regular meeting's been moved to the 21st at 4 p.m. On Thursday. Also, as David's saying, vote no on issue number 3. Voting's already started, but still, I think only 25% of people have voted so far. So that means 75% still have a chance to vote no on issue number 3. Okay? Thank you.
Ms. Greening?
Okay, so don't play with your microphone.
Don't play with the microphone.
I was out of town this past weekend, so I missed a lot of activities. I heard a lot of great things. I did watch, though, the CAPC meeting, and I saw what the marketing group had presented. That was pretty fun and interesting to watch. So I thought it was done really well. I don't have a whole lot more right now.
All right.
I think I'll turn my mic off.
The Madden Media, I think, was up here during the zombie crawl, and they probably got some tremendous footage. I know we got great publicity from all over the United States, but especially New York Times, and Good Morning America mentioned Eureka, and those are $1 million worth of advertising for us because of this, these events that are coming up. And I want to, everybody did a great job. The CAPC and Silent City was wonderful. But I got a phone call this morning from a lady at Mountain Home. She said she was elderly lady, but she came up for the zombie crawl, and she was hesitant at first, and she wanted me to know that how wonderful our police department was, because she felt totally safe being down here with her and her. This was a birthday gift for one of her girlfriends, and they came up for the zombie crawl, and they felt perfectly safe wandering around the streets, even among all the zombies. But the police had everything under control, were extra nice, and she just felt that didn't have anything to worry about. And so she was really highly complimentary on the police department and the police officers who were going around. She said, and they had everything under control. You could tell they were doing a good job. So for that many people in town participating, and when I say participating, that's both in the parade and watching the parade. I think there's as many people watching the parade as there were in the parade almost.
Do we know about how many?
I don't have a clue right now. We're still trying to figure that out. So my hat's off to the entire city for everything they did. Regarding the Mr. Myers' comment about the sewer plant, I'm saying that, and I sent that email around because it's not only hazardous, but it's also people are down there working on a job. And if we're going down there, it is a micromanaging for somebody to come down from city council to interrupt people working their job. If you have, I've got the chair. I've got the chair. Please, I would just ask that people contact somebody at the sewer plant if you're going to go down there, because it is hard. And the same thing with contacting engineers. They're being paid for a service, and they're not being paid to answer questions individually. If we got comments, that's why they're here, and they're here almost every meeting. So that was the reason for that email. Now, as far as things going on, we got a lot of still hopping. In October, we got, even though the zombies showed up in spirit, and I think we had a little left over the weekend and today, we got Eureka Springs National Holiday. Halloween is coming up. We got a historic downtown on Halloween, so bring your kids down there for trick-or-treats from the local store owners. The participating stores will be handing out treats from 4 to 6 on October 31st, so don't miss the family event. Also, join us for the vibrant celebration of love and diversity and community at Eureka Springs Fall Diversity Weekend, November 1st through the 3rd. This weekend-long event is our unique take on LGBTQ plus pride, set against the stunning backdrops of the Ozark Mountains during the autumn beauty. So Eureka Springs Diversity Weekends are uniquely sponsored by our local businesses and people and organizations, and not corporate dollars. So this grassroots makes our celebration authentic and really special. Also, November 6th through the 10th, we have the Porsche Palooza, which is a 4-day event dedicated for all Porsche enthusiasts. Starts on Wednesday nights and goes through Friday. And there'll be a Saturday, be drives all through the week. And then the Porsche Parade will come down Spring Street at 1:30 on November the 9th, and a car show in the afternoon with an awards banquet that night. The area Boy Scouts will be delivering collection bags in Eureka for the annual food drive for the Flint Street Food Bank. This is a 3-decade-long tradition, so fill the bag up with unexpired and non-perishable items and leave out for the November 9th Scouts pickup. Let's fill up Flint Street's food bank cupboards and shelves before the winter starts going. So I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much.